So some people are saying that they have tamed down the kind of like horror aspect of the novel for this movie, but I'm just not sure. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel at least twice a week, and then movie reviews or booked movie content here at the weekend. All my social links are in the description box below, including my blog and my Goodreads, so you can keep up with my reading in between times. And today is kind of like a book to movie / movie to movie review. I will leave my playlist of my other movie reviews linked up above in case you are looking for something to watch this week. I do have some family friendly reviews in there if you are looking for something to watch during half-term week. Today I'm going to be talking about The Witches. This is the brand new version of The Witches, which came out here in the US on the 22nd of October and comes out, I believe, in the UK tomorrow, the 26th of October. I watched this on HBO Max, and right before watching it, I did watch the original 1990 version. Can we just take a minute to realise, because it took me 2 seconds to realise this, that the 1990 version was 30 years ago. Now, this is the version I grew up with. I listened to the audiobook of The Witches on tape many times when I was younger. I had all my Roald Dahl tapes and I used to listen to them in the car or in my bedroom on my tape player or later on my Walkman. And so this was the one that I grew up with. And so there are going to be some comparisons in this video, but this is pretty much going to be, as much as I can manage, a straight review. However, I do have the fact that I read and loved the book, and the fact that I watched and loved the original Angelica Houston version of this film in the back of my head all the time as well. So there are going to be some comparisons. So in terms of, let's just address the whole, like, oh, they've tamed it down, it's much less scary now. I kind of disagree with that. I would say the film in general is less like creepy throughout. There's less kind of disgusting moments and less sort of horrific moments in there. But I would say that it's still very suspenseful. And I would say that the Grand High Witch in this case is as scary, if not scarier, than the Grand High Witch in the original version. I think because in the original version, the 1990 version, we can see that there's prosthetics, we can see that there's makeup and wigs there and what have you. Whereas obviously now we have this fabulous CGI. And just coming back to the general review, I think the CGI in this film is really, really good. Nothing felt like overly like animated. It was all very like, okay, I believe that this cat is doing this, and I believe that this witch is now flying. But yeah, I think because we have CGI, it does look like Anne Hathaway looks the way that they've made her out to look, because it's not just makeup and prosthetics and rubber and glue. It is like computer generated, and so it looks like it's part of her face, it looks like it's part of her hands, it looks like it's part of her feet and body. And so in my opinion, Anne Hathaway is a scarier Grand High Witch than Angelica Houston. I would say that I preferred Angelica Houston's German accent to the accent that Anne Hathaway puts on. Her accent almost becomes slightly Scandinavian in points, and I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be German, like in the original one. But yeah, just addressing that straight away. So if you are thinking of watching this with family, just be aware that the Anne Hathaway moments are definitely scarier. On the whole, the rest of the film isn't too bad in terms of like action and things like that. And it was interesting for me watching this as somebody who watched it as a child in 1990 to somebody who now kind of knows what kids watch from working with kids now in 2020. You're catering for a different audience, and so the comedy moments and the that's disgusting moments and the that's a bit creepy scary moments are going to be different. Like, you know, 1990 they were catering to a sort of 5-6 year old me. 2020, they're catering to 5 and 6 year olds who are very different from me. And so it was really markedly different, the comedy aspects. Specifically, we've got bumbling Rowan Atkinson, who was playing hotel manager as Basil Fawlty. And then we've got Stanley Tucci, who is playing hotel manager as, I'm not sure how. I feel like Stanley Tucci has major billing in this film, but actually doesn't appear in it very much. I would have liked to have seen way more of Stanley Tucci than I did. And he has some very straight moments, and he has some moments where we can see him being manipulated by Anne Hathaway, and then and Octavia Spencer, and then he has like maybe like 1 or 2 comedy moments, and they're very, very like physical humor. There's no subtlety there at all. There's no wordplay there at all. And the bits that make me laugh with Rowan Atkinson's comedy in the original are much more subtle. And I feel like he's kind of always playing the comedy part throughout the film, whereas I feel like Stanley Tucci just had kind of like the intimidated bit, the straight bit, and then like 1 or 2 funny moments. So yeah, I'm not really sure why he has top billing. I feel like Chris Rock has way more to say, and has way more kind of lines and a bigger part in this than Stanley Tucci does, which brings me on to my next point. As somebody that, you know, grew up reading the book and watched the movie, both of which are set in the UK. The filming of the hotel scenes are set down in Newquay. You know, obviously Roald Dahl is a UK author, was a UK author. The book set slightly in Norway, but mostly in the UK. It was quite jarring when I started watching this movie and there's Chris Rock narrating it, and we're in Alabama, which, you know, I'm not going to lie, it just was jarring to begin with. I wasn't expecting it. Once I'd settled into it, I was like, okay, we've got a new setting. That's fine. I'm buying this. And it was kind of true to the setting. It didn't try and be UK, apart from Bruno and family, who are English, which was, again, an interesting choice of how this English family were holidaying in this hotel in Alabama in what I believe to be the early 70s. I think it's the early 70s that it's set in. It was definitely like set historically rather than set in modern day. So it's actually set before the 1990 film is set, because that was set at like present day 1990 hotel in Newquay. But yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, it's set in Alabama and it's very like true to that. But initially for me, who was a fan of the book and the original movie, it was a little bit jarring because I was like, wait, where are we now? Okay. Octavia Spencer as the grandmother was just fantastic. She's very maternal. She didn't make me sort of like as emotional as the original grandmother. Again, trying not to compare it, but there are some moments that in the original film, Luke's grandmother really makes me laugh and really makes me emotional, like emotionally charged, whether that's like motivated or upset or something, whereas Octavia Spencer was very like maternal, but she kind of almost takes a step back so that her grandson can be the real like lead in this, which is why I don't understand why he doesn't have top billing with Stanley Tucci and Octavia Spencer on the movie poster. We've got Anne Hathaway, Stanley Tucci, Octavia Spencer, but where is he? Where is grandson? And this is where it's much truer to the book. He's not called Luke. He doesn't have a name. And in the book, our main character that gets turned into a mouse does not have a name. Speaking of mouse, we do have an extra character in this one, and this is Kristen Chenoweth, voicing the voice of our main character's pet mouse, who is in the book. Not Kristen Chenoweth in the book, but that was a bit... She's got such a distinctive voice. If you know her voice, you'll know it's her straight away. And so it's like, okay, we've got 2 kids, and then this one adult who's doing the voice of a kid who was turned into a mouse. That's not a spoiler because that's the main storyline of the film. So that was like a little bit, ooh, but I liked her character, and I liked the fact that we have like 3 mice And we have, you know, the discussion of someone almost having their tail cut off with a carving knife. I like that. That was nice and subtle. But yeah, I like the fact that we had the 3 mice in there, and I like the fact that we had these newer characters. I would say that on the whole, this does conform slightly better to the book than the original film. And I would also say that the witches are more like kind of like traditional witches. There are certain descriptions that are very much like true to the book and that we find in the first movie as well, but their sort of magical powers and abilities are a lot more like we would imagine, like, you know, the black-hatted witch in Room on the Broom or Wicked Witch of the West to have. I'd say that they're slightly more traditional, and rather than having a sort of human assistant, Anne Hathaway's Grand High Witch character has a black cat like we would expect a witch to have, and it makes it much more fitting to have been released right by Halloween. So yeah, I would say that it is a really good adaptation, and definitely something that's kind of like spooky and verging on scary to watch with your families this Halloween. But don't rule out watching the original 1990 version, or indeed reading any of Roald Dahl's books at this time of year, because they all verge on being a little bit scary. I was always, you know, looking at women's feet and the kind of shoes that they were wearing after I'd watched this, and then, you know, worrying about if I watched too much TV, getting sucked into TV. This is the power that Roald Dahl had over me when I was younger. But as a film, it's a shame that we're not going to get to see it on the big screen, but that's just the way things are. I think if I was making my traditional movie review video and going, would I pay money to see this at the big screen? Should you pay money to see this on the big screen? I would say yes. I think it would be worth your cinema going money. And so if you're considering renting this one, if you can get it on demand, or, you know, obviously if you already have HBO and you can download it and watch it, or just literally stream it, then go for it. Do recommend it. But if you're considering paying the money to rent this one, I think I would. Just comes with the warning that Anne Hathaway as a witch is really quite scary. Like, I did not like some of her features and some of her powers. She is a very powerful Grand High Witch. She plays up to that title, and she does it well. So yeah, if I was saying pay the money to go and see this, I would. I recommend it. And I'm glad I watched it, and I'm glad I watched the 2 back to back, because it was really like, okay, I'm in the Roald Dahl mood now. I need to maybe go away and read Great Glass Elevator now. That's one of my favorites. Although I still have not seen the full adaptation, the new adaptation of the BFG. It slipped through my fingers somehow, and I think it's on Disney Plus. There's no excuse. That is one of my favorites as well. So I will be back with another movie review or 2 for you next weekend. There's been some new releases coming straight to streaming recently, and so I have some thoughts, and I'm going to share them with you here. So make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell so that you do not miss out on those reviews. I will be back with more bookish content for you in the week. As always, if there are any reviews you want to hear, any movie reviews you want to hear from me, let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you with bookish content in the week. Thanks for watching.